1 2 1 2. Two, one, two. Welcome back, everybody, to the Motive Racing YouTube channel. We are back here tonight for the Purple Sector Formula One League, the final round of the season here for season 11. And the championship is not quite over yet, but it's looking like it very well might be by the end of this qualifying session, because we're currently without one of our contenders, Trevor, who hasn't showed for tonight. We believe he's got internet problems. Now, we're not sure whether or not we're going to be seeing Trevor before we get into the session, but if he's not in the qualifying session by the time we get to the final laps, then we're going to have to, I think, officially crown Matty Pitt as the champion of Purple Sector for season 11 here, because obviously once we get to the end of qualifying, Trevor won't be able to join the race no matter what. So it's the clock's ticking at the moment for Trevor. He needs to get himself in the session before the end of qualifying here. So hopefully we can see Trevor get himself in and we can see a proper fight in this championship decider. But if not, it'll be Matty Pitt, who is the champion of Purple Sector. I believe it won't be the first time he's won it, but I'm not quite sure how many he's won before. But if anybody knows, I would love to be able to reel off that statistic at the end of the stream, or when he crosses the line to finish the race later on. But yeah, if anybody does know, let me know. But in the meantime, we got 12 drivers in here tonight. We were, I think, due 14 at one stage, then it dropped a bit, and then a couple of guys jumped in unexpectedly, which is good to see. We've got Freddie out on track, back out there after missing the last race. We've got Stiffy also out there as well, who I don't believe has been here since I restarted commentating about a week ago, or just over a week ago. And yeah, we've also I'm pretty sure there's a couple of drivers else that didn't ready up or didn't confirm. But yeah, here we are then. So a few drivers out on the track here, getting ready to go racing here for the final time here in season 11. You've got Mark out there, so is Ruck, who's just starting a flying lap. You've got Drauga, who's on a flying lap at the moment, has just come over the line here. Davidoff also, I think he's the furthest on the track at the moment. Davidoff drove a really strong race on Tuesday night at Qatar. Has shown a really, really strong pace in quite a few of the races. In two of the races out of three that we've commentated on since our return. Obviously, drove really well at Interlagos, and then Qatar was in the hunt for the win, and the penalties kind of thwarted his charge towards the win. Albeit he didn't take the. It would have been difficult anyway, but. Yeah, should be an interesting night here. We got Drauga's also out there coming down the back straight. Let's keep an eye on these sector times here and see what people are doing. So Davidoff a 50, was that 53.3? I think it might have been here, as he comes into the final sector under the MSC Cruises bridge here, and into the final two corners here for Davidoff. And let's see what he can put on the board here. Comes through the final corner. Obviously, lap times around this circuit much quicker than they used to be. So Drauga is 0.02 of a second shy of Davidoff at the top of the leaderboard here. So it's very, very close here between these drivers. And yeah, that's incredibly tight there between those two. So really closely matched so far between Davidoff and Drauga. That we got the mark there, who's just under a second off of the fastest time, about 9/10 off of the fastest time there, being set by Davidoff and Drauga at the moment. Freddie's all out on the track now as well, so we'll see what Freddie can do very shortly. Rexy Boy's on a flying lap as well. Let's see what Rexy Boy's able to do as he's coming in towards the final sector of the lap here. We've got Justify also on a lap as well, but we're going to watch Rexy Boy here as he comes to the final sector here. Couple of tenths off of the time that was set by Davidoff in the middle sector, but crucially could be able to put it ahead of Mark into third place here with a good tidy final sector, and Drexler comes over the line and does improve there into third place, so moves ahead of Mark there for the time being. Freddie here coming through the middle sector down the long back straight here. Justify coming towards the end of the sector 2, and look at that, Justify is up on Davidoff's time. It was a 53.3 from Davidoff through this section, and yeah, definitely he's showing he's got some pace right now. Is Justify just needs to keep it together through this final sector, and it will be provisional pole position. But there's a bit of traffic here which might be a spanner in the works here, but Justify, there's an Alpine right in front of him, and it doesn't seem to be in any mood to let him through here. So Justify is going to lose a bit of time, but is it going to cost him pole here? Comes up towards the line. Oh, he just gets it there by a tenth of a second. That was tight there for Justify, but manages to get pole despite getting massively held up in the final sector there. I'm sure that Alpine must have been on a flying lap, because there would have been no excuse not to move aside otherwise. But that was actually, interestingly enough, that was Drauger there who was right in front of him, also on a flying lap there. So, but nonetheless, good lap there from Justify, moves to the top of the leaderboard, and I think Drauger was actually starting a lap there, wasn't on a flying lap, so that could, I mean, if Justify missed out on P1, that would have been contentious. And I'll tell you what, if Justify doesn't get pole, then he might have a few words to say about that one. Maybe it might anyway, because at the end of the day, it's a point of principle when that sort of thing happens. But Drauger nonetheless coming out onto the second straight in the middle part of the lap here, and is currently third place, a tenth of a second off the fastest time, being set by Justify into this corner, which is a much faster corner. He used to be back in the day, and he locks up there going into the corner, and Drauger's wide, and that's his chance of an improvement there out of the window. So Justify there, still out there on a lap at the moment. And actually, I stayed out after that previous lap, but I wonder if this is an in lap. So maybe this is an in lap here for Justify. In fact, it definitely is an in lap. I wonder whether Justify was playing a few games there with Drauger as a little bit of a gotcha kind of moment there, with Drauger doing what he did on the previous lap. But Matty Pitt, nonetheless, the championship leader, has moved into second place here in this qualifying session. And as we said earlier on, if Trevor doesn't join the session at the end of this qualifying, then Matty Pitt will be crowned champion for season 11 here at Purple Sector. So all it takes is for Trevor not to turn up, and Matty Pitt will be the champion. Obviously, we'll give him his full congratulations at the end of the race, because qualifying is no time to be handing out congratulations like that. But yeah, it would could be done as soon as at the end of this qualifying session. If Trevor doesn't join the session, it will be all over. As we got Bailey here, the usual qualifying Kickstarter here, saying come on to Davidoff. Obviously Davidoff not far away at all, but it's a very close leaderboard here in this one, Bailey. Only a tenth of a second covering the top four, so it's incredibly tight here between these drivers. They're all very evenly matched at the front of the field right now. I have a feeling that if Trevor was here, that might change, but seemingly it's looking like he's not going to be starting this race, which is absolutely gutting. And when you consider the fact that he is retiring from Purple Sector at the end of this season, it makes it a little bit more, I think, upsetting, the fact that he's not going to be able to take the championship, or not going to be able to at least fight for the championship. I mean, at least give him a chance to go for it. But yeah, it's very unfortunate. But nonetheless, we're on board here with Street Boy coming towards the end of the first set of the first straight. Currently P5 in this session at the moment, 7/10 of a second off of the provisional pole time as he comes through the chicane. And down the second straight we go now, and we'll be keeping a close eye on the sector times here to see if Street Boy is on improvement. Also, the likes of Freddie and T are out there at the moment on lap times, but Street Boy well off through the middle sector. That's not going to be an improvement. Must be an in lap surely. Freddie also on an in lap, because 1.4 adrift of his personal best. So he's in the pits. Glenn is currently out there as he's coming through the middle sector. We're going to keep an eye on the times here at the end of the middle sector, because that will tell us whether or not he's on a flying lap here as Clem comes into the braking zone. Yeah, he's definitely on a flying lap, because he's only 2/10 off of Davidoff's initial time. So, no, sorry, he's up on Davidoff's initial time. He's only 2/10 off of Justify's time. should I say. And we know Justify was held up in the final sector, so Glenn could have a chance here of nabbing pole position away from from Justify. It'd only be provisional pole, but nonetheless it'd be a bit of a boost here going into the second half of this qualifying session here as Glenn comes into the pits at the end of this lap. So it's not going to be a lap time on the board there. Did Glenn invalidate the lap time there, or was that slight contact with the wall in the third to last corner potentially a nail in that particular lap? We're not quite sure, but nonetheless we see the top 4 coming back out onto the track for another flying lap here. Justify coming through the final corner, about to start a lap. Matty Pitt's out there, so is Davidoff, so is Drauger as well. So these guys are going to try and cement their positions in those top places here as we come towards the final part of this qualifying session here for the final race of the season here at the Purple Sector Formula 1 League. We've got Justify here coming in towards the hairpin and comes onto the brakes here. You can see just a 600th of a second off of his fastest time, the current provisional pole time here in this one. Down the first straight we go with the DRS open, and we're going to keep our eyes on the provisional pole man here. We've also got the likes of Davidoff and Drauger on laps as well. We'll come to them pretty shortly, but Justify into the chicane, nailing the apex nicely there, and absolutely hooking it up beautifully there on the exit as well. Really using the track wisely, not going over the limits, and just keeping it very tidy at the moment. It's Justify on this particular lap towards the end of the middle sector, 0.6 of a second down, so must have been a little bit too cautious there through that part of the lap, and has lost time, and it's not going to be an improvement on his current provisional pole time at the moment. Davidoff is up in the first sector. Drauger, we're not quite sure what the time was in that first sector here, but Drauger coming towards the end of the second straight. Now, what's Drauger doing here? What time is on the board? It's 53.0, so that is pretty much nip and tuck here with the provisional pole driver, which is Justified, as Davidoff didn't see the time there. Some of you guys probably would have seen it in the top right. I wasn't looking as it came up, so I'm not quite sure, but Davidoff is on a good lap and is continuing to push, so must be on a competitive time, you would think. Drauger here into the final few corners. Now, what is it going to be for our current provisional P4 driver here as he comes into the final corner? Foot to the floor here, over the line comes Drauger. Is it going to be pole here? It is going to be provisional pole here for Drauger. But what about Davidoff over the line in the background? And Davidoff goes even quicker there. So a 23.2 from Davidoff, a 23.3 from Drauger. So these drivers here are setting absolute stonking lap times here as the track is continuing to ramp up and improve, and the rubber is continuing to give them more grip out there. Justify, who was P1 a few moments ago, now down to P3, 0.3 of a second off of the fastest time. So it's been a big drop there for Justify. Matty Pitt's out there at the moment, coming through into the final few corners. Matty, the championship leader here, coming into the final corner here at Abu Dhabi. Is it going to be pole here for Matty Pitt? He comes over now. It's not, and he does move ahead of Justify there by 0.3 of a second. So it's incredibly close here at the top. 0.3 of a second covering the top 4. But Davidoff puts it on provisional pole for the time being. Andy Fong saying Davidoff the GOAT. This is his second ride tonight. I don't quite know what you mean there. But Bailey says light work for the GOAT. And go on, says Andy Fong. So the comments definitely lighting up here for our driver in the Kick Sauber, Davidoff, who has laid down a marker here. But still a long way to go. Still chances for drivers to get themselves in the pits, make a few adjustments if they need to. Oh no, actually no, because it's parc fermé, so can't make any adjustments, but you can get in the pits, get a fresh set of boots on, and take the fuel down to its minimum, and just go all out for the final runs of the session here. Track will continue to rubber in, so they're all going to need to go again before the end of this session here. But that is Davidoff, currently your fastest driver here in this session, with Drauger in second place, and you've got Matty Pitt in P3 as things stand. And as things stand at the moment, with Trevor still having not joined the session, it will be Matty Pitt who will be crowned champion at the end of qualifying, unless I'm very much mistaken and Trevor has joined the qualifying session, but I don't believe he has. I haven't seen his name pop up at all. But yeah, it's always Glenn there goes into P3, and there's now 0.4 of a second between 3 drivers, Glenn, Matty Pitt and Justify, separated by virtually nothing here, but Glenn putting his name in the mix here as they come towards the end of this session. Is he going to be able to get in and then get back out again in time for another run? It's going to be pretty close, I would say. Need to be in and out of that garage within about 1 minute to get another run in before the end of this session, so it could be pretty close here. Andy saying in the comments, where's the Ferrari drivers? Don't quite know, actually. Interesting point. I can't see any Ferrari drivers out there on track tonight. Obviously, Trevor, one of them, the championship protagonist, who is looking like he's not going to be here tonight. He's not going to be able to fight it out with Matty Pitt. Matty Pitt will win that championship by default due to Trevor not being here. But the other Ferrari, who drives the other Ferrari? Sorry, I've only been commentating for a couple of weeks, so I haven't really had time. I've just sort of jumped in and commentated. I haven't really. Obviously, next season I'll be probably doing my homework. I'll have my sheet ready and all of the drivers and all their cars. But this season I haven't been able to pay much attention. I kind of jumped in right at the end of the season here. We've got Andy Fong says the bookies odds for Davidoff 50-1 on for P1. Is that for qualifying or is that for the race? If it's for qualifying, I'd say you'd be looking pretty good. For the race, I wouldn't say 50-1 on. That'd be pretty insane. James here says send link, bro. What for the league? Sure, I'll do so. I don't know whether it's full yet. I know there is a process upon which you need to go through to join the league. So you'd have to consult Matty Pitt on that one. But sure, I'll put the link. I'll send you the link, I suppose. And then from there, I guess it's up to Matty what he does. Oh, it's Justify's gone P1. So Justify's now done a 23.0. It's gone half a second quicker than it had previously gone. So the track is continuing to improve lap after lap after lap here. That's phenomenal stuff there from Justify. Absolutely excellent. I can't find a option to share the server, so I think only Matty can generate links. Or at least only the admin team can generate links. But I'll get back to you on that one, James, for the time being. I'll get back to you on that one because I'm sure that we can do that. Well, I'm not sure if you'll be able to join the league, but yeah. Anyway, we got Justify currently put on provisional pole position, 2/10 clear of Davidoff in second place. Drauger is third, 0.3 of a second off of the pace, with Glenn and Matty Pitt half a second adrift in fourth and fifth places. So half a second separating the top 5 drivers here at Abu Dhabi for the final round of the season. We see T is actually retired from a session, has crashed out. So is Freddie as well. We're not sure if that's a crash or if that's those two throwing in the towel here, because their sessions are virtually done. We've got Ruck also out of qualifying here as well. We've got cautions everywhere, which would imply that at least one of those drivers has stacked it into the wall. But Justify, the provisional pole position, into the pits. Davidoff is throwing it in as well. So that's going to be interesting now, because with Davidoff in the pits, that means he can't improve, which means that those 50-1 odds there, 50-1 on odds that Andy Fogg posted in the chat are going to be all totally blown off there. So if anybody's betted, put a fortune on Davidoff to get P1 in qualifying here tonight, then unfortunately you're going to have lost a heck of a lot of money there, because Justify is on provisional pole and Davidoff is in the pits, and Drauger's gone quicker there than Davidoff as well. So Davidoff now down to P3. Drauger's only a 10th and a half off of the provisional pole time there set by Justify. So lots of drivers here in the mix at the top of that leaderboard. Heard that George Russell is watching the stream. Bailey Mackay sent me £100, said Andy Fong. No, you wouldn't. Why would you do that? You'd only make £2. Come on, Bailey. What are you doing? Jesus Christ. Davidoff, you've got a lot of pressure on you, mate. There's a lot of very, very disappointed people out there. You've let a lot of people down. So Drauger here is out there, but he's on an in lap. We've got Glenn also on an improvement here, coming through the middle sector. Matty Pitt there comes over the line, goes into P4, pushes Glenn down a position. So now Glenn has got to respond to that to get onto the front 2 rows. Matty Pitt will be starting P4 as things stand at the moment. Stiffy's gone into P6 right at the end of the session here, but the last driver on a lap here is Glenn, 10th up, coming through the middle sector here. So what can Glenn put on the board through this? He's found a few corners here. Can Glenn get onto the front 2 rows? A small improvement would possibly see him move up into P4. As here we come into the final corner now. It's Glenn up towards the line to complete qualifying here at Abu Dhabi, and it's P4 there. Lovely job from Glenn. Manages to displace Matty Pitt right at the end. That's a really nice step there from Glenn. And yeah, it'll be so that's Justify who'll be starting this one on pole position for the final race of the season. Now we're going to find out if Matty Pitt is the champion of Purple Sector Formula One League, because if Trevor hasn't managed to join the session in the intermediary qualifying, then obviously that is that. Matty Pitt will be officially the champion of season 11. So Justify, Drauger, Davidoff and Glenn, your top four, with Matty Pitt followed by Stiffy. Then you've got Rexy Boy, Mark, T and Freddie completing the top 10, and Street Boy and Ruck completing the qualifying classification here. But hold fire, because we believe that Matty Pitt is the champion of this Purple Sector Formula One League here for season 11. I'm just looking at the Ferrari garage there. I can't see any names on it other than Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. So that would tell us, I think that gives us a big clue there that Trevor has not turned up. So that is Matty Pitt confirmed as the champion of Purple Sector for season 11. So obviously we'll wait until the end of the race to congratulate him. But essentially that's a phenomenal job there from Matty Pitt for this season. And consistently he's been there. Obviously Trevor's raced brilliantly in the races he's been here, but I've looked up and down the results and it's clear to me that that Trevor hasn't always been able to turn up to the races, and as such that's really cost him his chance of a proper championship challenge. And we know obviously Trevor's had to, well, he's retiring from Purple Sector at the end of this season. So that means that his one chance to take the championship has unfortunately gone out of the window. But nonetheless, here we go then, underway for the formation lap here. So Justify and Drago on the mediums. Interestingly, Davidoff doing what he so often does there and putting the alternate tyre on, the hard tyre going on Davidoff's car, which means that he's going to try and do something a little bit different here with the strategy. He's going to try and outfox his opponents potentially. So Davidoff planning on trying to go long into this first stint, and then having the faster tyres for the second stint with the lighter fuel loads as well, being able to cash in twice as heavily as you otherwise would. So here we go then, lining up on the grid here at the Yas Marina circuit for the final round of season 11. Matty Pitt, your champion of season 11, but still a Grand Prix ahead of us here as the lights coming on ahead of the grid. We're about to go racing here for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and it's lights out and away we go. And it's a very strong start there from Justify, but from pole position. But Drago looking to try and challenging here into turn one as they're going side by side there, and Drago manages to get the move done. So Drago managing to minimise the wheel spin there. Into P1 he goes as we come through turn two. Bit of a slide there from Drago, but keeps it together for the time being. Justify coming under pressure here from Davidoff, who's looking to try and force the issue here down towards the hairpin. And Davidoff there down the inside into the hairpin on those hard tyres, making a really, really strong start here is Davidoff, but Justify keeping it around the outside, getting a good exit there out of the hairpin, holding on to second place. And Davidoff here having to tuck in for the time being. As look as that Justifies there has managed to slingshot Trauger down the long straight into P1 he goes. Davidoff here trying to make a move here to the inside into the first part of the chicane, but Trauger holds on to that one for the time being as Stiffy's had a big moment there. Stiffy's down to P11, so it's had an absolute horror show there coming through the chicane, but Justify leads ahead of Trauger as they come down the second straight here with Clem there in third. Davidoff has dropped down to fourth place there. Clem managing to make that move with Mark, and then you've got Freddie there making a move there around the outside of Matty Pitt. Lovely stuff there, but Matty Pitt keeping himself there. It's very close between them. This is where Hamilton passed Russell on the final lap in the 2024 season, and Freddie managing to get that move done there on Matty Pitt as Rock there was looking to try and make a move on his teammate but couldn't quite make that one happen. Rexy Boy ahead of Street Boy with Stiffy and T at the back of the pack, but Justify is out the front here and is doing what he needs to do. Obviously lost the lead off of the line, but retook that lead coming down the first long straight. And Drago now's got it all to do there in second place. Glenn ahead of Davidoff, the top four, breaking away from everybody else at the moment. There's Mark ahead of Freddie with Matty Pitt, Ruck, Rexy Boy, Street Boy and Stiffy and T at the back of the pack at the moment. But the top four now starting to assert their authority here over everybody else. We've got Teza Muzza here in the comments saying, imagine having a chance to win the championship and you don't even show up. Congrats to Matty, but he deserved to have this moment against his rival on track. He's congratulating Matty with some interesting choice of words there, which are all fair and all, well, I guess it's all good banter, but nonetheless, towards the end of the first straight here, we've got a move being shaped up by Freddie, and he's moving ahead of Mark there into P5. So Freddie's done it really nicely there, using the straight, using the DRS as well. And now Matty Pitt is looking to try and get him ahead of Mark as well. Mark losing places here down the second straight. Ruck also making his way through as well. So Mark has lost 4 places there. Rexy Boy up into P8 as well. And Mark absolutely dropping it like a stone here on the second lap of the race. So he's been passed by Freddie, Matty Pitt, Ruck and Rexy Boy, as Freddie leading this train of cars. But for how much longer? Because Matty Pitt looking down the inside, trying to make that move as they're side by side. Freddie keeping it there. Matty Pitt trying to go for the cutback, hits him in the rear. As a result, Freddie holding on to P5 by the skin of his teeth there, as Rocky was waiting in the wings in the background. Rexy Boy, Mark as well, as Stiffy, Street Boy and T. So this is a battle from 5th all the way down to 12th place here. It's 8 cars in a line as they come down the start of a straight here to start lap 3 of the race. What a battle this is for P5, as the battle for P1 continues to rage on out the front with Justified, Drago, Klein and Davidoff. So you've got 2 trains, you've got the top 4, and then you've got everybody else behind Freddie here. So plenty to watch here at the moment to keep our eyes on. As Mark there trying to make a move up the inside here of Rexy Boy, but Rexy Boy managed to just slow down that braking going into the corner, managed to keep just coast into the corner around the outside, let off that brake a bit and managed to keep the momentum there into the corner. So Rexy Boy did really well there to keep that position around the outside. Mark there is going to have to wait a little bit longer if he wants to make that move. Looked like he got it done potentially going into the braking zone, into the hairpin, but it wasn't to be there for Mark, as we see Jaga making a move here for the lead of the race into the corner at the end of the second straight there. He's made that move beautifully there as Drauga up into P1, as Freddie and Matty Pitt side by side here, and Freddie trying to hold himself in that position, but Matty Pitt keeping it around the outside, can't do it, and Freddie holds on to that one still. And he's doing a really good job here, is Freddie, of making his car as wide as he can. Oh no, Matty Pitt's run right into the back of him there. He's absolutely steamed into him. He must have damage, surely. Freddie, I think, is going to have to come into the pits. Is his car completely and utterly totaled there? He's down to P11. Stiffy's also had a spin down to P12. But Matty Pitt here is carrying on. So clearly the damage not severe enough for Matty to come into the pits. Freddie had damage to the rear of the car, and he's into the pits here at the end of lap 3, as we see Ruck also into the pits. But wow, I mean, all Matty has to do is, he doesn't even need to finish the race. He's been given the championship on a plate, but come on mate, we want to see you finish the race so we can give you a proper champion's greeting here. But Claire nonetheless into second place, getting the move done on Justify, as we see Davidoff also moving into third place here as well. We see Claire now taking the lead off of Drauga as they come down towards the chicane once again here. This is going to be tight here as they come into the corner. As you see Drauga, they had a big slide there going into the corner and tapping Glenn in the back as well there. That was very, very close there, as now we see Glenn falling back behind Drauga and Davidoff as they now come down towards the end of the second straight, as Drauga there on the outside, Davidoff there making that move into P1. What a fight this is between these drivers at the moment. Fantastic racing this is between them. Davidoff has the lead, having managed to just mug everybody else there coming down that straight, but Drauga's still right there with Clen and Justify as well. As we see Matty Pitt's pulled away a little bit from the rest of the pack in the battle for P5. You see there's Rexy Boy ahead of Mark, followed by Street Boy T. Stiffy now well off of these in P10, having come into the pit lane. You've got Rocky in P11, and Freddie, after some significant repairs, I think, is running in P12. And Freddie definitely needs a safety car in this one if he's going to have any chance of salvaging something in this race. But Davidoff here out of the front. We've got James here heralding the drive from Davidoff so far, saying different gravy from Davidoff. Well, certainly picked his moment, didn't he? He's now got over a second of a gap here, saying that it just dips under and then just dips over again there. So Davidoff now out of DRS threat, and the question is, was Clen within it at the detection point? It looks like the others were just about within that range there, so they're going to get that closing speed, and Davidoff's hard work is going to be somewhat undone here as they come into the chicane. But Clen there in second place, Drauga and Justify still right there with them. It's still a four-way train at the moment for the lead of the race. Davidoff did try to break that DRS gap to these guys, but couldn't quite do it, on at least not this lap. As Justify and Drago there side by side going into that left-hander, and Drago there keeping it around the outside for the time being. Justify going to have to continue just to wait a little bit longer here. But the thing is, with Davidoff being in the lead, he's on the hard tyres as well, which is only going to benefit him in that second stint, as we see T getting around the outside of Street Boy there up into 8th place. But yeah, Davidoff is only going to benefit him. The fact that he's got that faster compound to run later on, can go long into this first stint. You know, Davidoff has got everything going for him at this moment in time. So it's advantage this David at the moment. Glenn there in second with Drago and Justify completing the top 4. Bit of a gap back to Matty Bitt, who's continuing to gap these drivers behind Rexy Boy, Mark, T and Street Boy. These 4 drivers here battling over P6. But Matty currently running in 5th place and doing everything he needs to do right now. Obviously with the championship done and dusted. Unless he crashes into somebody and gets DQ'd from the championship. But Rexy Boy nonetheless with a bit of a twitch coming out of the hairpin. Street Boy's got a 3-second time penalty for track limits. As we see T there making a move here on Rexy Boy, his McLaren teammate, as they come down towards the end of the straight. That's T, job done there into 7th place. And Street Boy here will obviously be feeling the effects of that 3-second penalty. Knows now that he's going to be really up against it to finish ahead of the drivers who he's battling on track. But obviously now he'd need a 3-second gap or for them to pick up a penalty as well. Penalties aren't too bad around the Abu Dhabi track. Obviously Qatar, different story. It's penalty haven. But around here, not so bad. But, pardon me. But currently you're watching on board Rexy Boy at the moment. You can see there Mark and T just up ahead, and Matty Pitt continuing to just eke out that gap. Confused, couple of tenths each lap. Matty Pitt's pulling away from these guys and is continuing to show he's got control over that one at the moment. As we see Mark into the pits here at the end of lap 6, and Davidoff continues to lead the race by just under 2 seconds at this moment in time. Glenn there running in 2nd place with Drauger dropping off at the back of him a little bit here. Justify looking pretty hot here. Justify looking like he wants to get on with this, maybe sensing the fact that he needs to make this move to avoid getting completely cut off from the leaders here. But Drauger's going to have DRS on Clem, which is going to help him to defend here from Justify. Justify a lot closer to Drauger than Drauger is to Clem here. But you can see they're on board with Justify. Drauger having the DRS on Clem is just allowing Drauger to use that to his advantage here, and there's no real dividends or gain there for Justify whatsoever. Having said that, he gets a lovely exit coming out of the chicane, and the traction there for the Haas was way better than the Alpine there for Drauger, as Justify breezes past, coming down towards the end of the 2nd straight, and into 3rd place goes Justify, and that is job done there for him. And Drauger with that penalty could be a bit demoralising in this situation, as he's got a little bit alongside Justify there, but Justify does see the move completed there into this next sequence of corners, into this little arena section here, and that is yeah, absolutely fantastic move there from Justify. But always he gets it a little bit wrong, and Drauger's going to sense opportunity here down the inside into the penultimate corner, pushes him wide there. That was a bit of a Verstappen and into Lagos move on Hamilton in 2021 sort of thing. He does in the end cede the position there. Justify lets Drauger back through into 3rd place there. And these guys have now lost a lot of time to not just Glenn, but also to the race leader Davidoff as well, who's nearly 6 seconds ahead of them in P1. So they've really shot themselves in the foot there. As Street Boy's out of the race, I don't know where he's crashed or if he crashed or what happened, but must have been through that final corner there, or maybe into the pit wall potentially there. But Street Boy is out of the race here at the end of lap 7. We've got a double waved yellow flags, a flashing caution. Don't believe safety car has been deployed or anything like that. I think that it's just a temporary caution here, but who knows? Could be a safety car. Because there's been a couple of occasions where I thought that it's been a caution, and then suddenly out of nowhere the safety car just appears on the track. So let's see what happens here. But yeah, I'm looking at the bottom of the screen, and there's no UFO type objects on the map, so I don't think we've got any safety cars. As we see Drauger here around the outside of Justify, timing that restart there brilliantly to Drauger up into 3rd place, and Justify couldn't come back at him here as he looks around the outside. These two continuing to chop and change positions here. What a great race these two are having. But as we said before, well adrift of the leaders now. Obviously Davidoff out in front doing the business on those hard tyres. He's going to take some stopping now is Davidoff. Glenn is running in 2nd place, 3 seconds behind at the moment. Drauga 7 seconds off for the race lead. Justify about a second off of him at the moment. And I'll tell you what, with these two battling, it is letting Matty Pitt close in more and more and more. So Matty Pitt could be sniffing a podium here on his crowning championship night here for season 11 here at Pebble Sector. But Rexy Boy into the pits nonetheless at the end of lap 8. Off and away he goes with a set of fresh hard tyres. But yeah, Davidoff coming down the long back straight towards the chicane with just under a 4-second lead at the moment over Claire, and is continuing to eke out that gap bit by bit as Justify making the move here on Drago with the DRS into the chicane once again here. So these two just continuing to use the DRS to make each other's lives an absolute nightmare here, as Freddie's out of the race here on lap 9, so he's crashed out somewhere, and we've got a flashing caution again. No safety car, no VSC as of yet. Just appears to be the awkward kind of yellow light, as Drago has to hold position behind Justify for the time being with those double waved yellow flags waving. Can't obviously overtake in that situation. Oh, it's Justify there. Big twitch coming out of the final corner. Drago might sense his opportunity here, looking to the outside. Thing is though, Drago got caught up a little bit behind Justify. Couldn't put the foot to the floor because he was literally right on the back of him. So wasn't able to really capitalise at all. So Justify there clinging on to P3 as they now come down towards the chicane again. And is he going to make the move? Sorry, not the chicane, the hairpin should I say. But Justify keeps it around the outside. Thing is, Drago will now have DRS and Matty Pitt. Look at this guy here. He is closing in consistently over the last few laps. As here goes Drago with DRS open. He's going to breeze past Justify like he's not even there. And we've got a safety car. Safety car's been deployed because Rock has crashed out. Drago made that move before the safety car was deployed and will be able to hold on to third place with Justify there behind. There's Matty Pitt running in P5 with T6. Stiffy in 7th, followed by Mark in 8th, and Rexy Boy currently P9 at the moment in this one. But Davidoff is your race leader on those hard tyres. And this, I'll tell you what, this couldn't have come at a worse time for Davidoff here, to be honest, because everybody else is going to be putting the hard tyres on. Obviously, he needs to run 2 different compounds, so he can't really put the mediums on at the moment. It would be a heck of a long stint for Davidoff to get the mediums to the end. What's he going to do? He's coming into the pits. Is he going to do a 2-stop and put the softs on, or is he going to try and get the mediums to the end from here? Obviously, you're not going to be doing 19 laps because there will be a couple of laps on the safety car, so it'll be 17 racing laps that he'd have to do on the medium tyres if he's going to get to the end here. That would be a heck of a feat, but he's going to try and do it by the looks of it, as our race leader leaves the pits and is off and away again. I tell you what, that is going to be a heck of a challenge there for Davidoff. He's going to have to really look after these tyres in these couple of laps after the safety during the safety car, and then just be as smooth as you like for the last 17 laps of the race. We're still in the first half of the race here, so there is a long way to go. But Davidoff has got a heck of a task here if he's going to get these tyres to the end. Glenn there coming out on the hard tyres second. Everyone else on the hard tyres here. Drago in third place. There's Mark in fourth, followed by Justify, who's Mark obviously is on 4-lap old tyres, but gains track position and should be able to go to the end as well. 22 laps on the hards isn't too much of a difficult task to do. Rexy Boy gains track position on Stiffy as well, up into 8th place. But Mark could have really been onto a winner there, coming in for that early pit stop, because now he's got track position on quite a few drivers. And obviously the hard tyres don't wear out that much, so 4 extra laps on the hard tyres, you wouldn't think that would cost you too much time. It would probably be minimal, but in terms of overall delta with the tyres, it wouldn't be major. So Mark could easily hold his ground with these drivers behind, but obviously has he got the pace to do that? That's the big question, and that's ultimately what we're going to find out. But for the time being, it's Davidoff leading us around here under safety car at the moment. There is Clen on the back of him with Drago there in third place, and Mark in fourth. Justify running in P5 at this point, followed by Matty Pitt who's in 6th. Then you've got T in 7th, followed by Rexy Boy in 8th place, and Stiffy running at the back of at the moment in 9th place, as we're currently without Rock, Freddy and Street Boy, who have all had to come into the pits here. Oh no, have all had to be retired to the pits, should I say, long before the end of the race. So that's obviously a shame there for them. A sad way for the seasons to end for those guys, but new season will be starting next Tuesday, which is obviously fantastic. So there's going to be no major hold up, there's going to be no sort of hanging about. We're just going to get straight into the season for next season, which is great, because I'd much rather have some racing to commentate on than be sat around twiddling my thumbs on Tuesday and Thursday night. So that's obviously fantastic for me, and fantastic for the drivers, and fantastic for any friends, family members, or otherwise associates of any of the drivers out on the circuit. But yeah, currently just trundling around at the moment, not really doing a whole lot, I must be honest. Just waiting to get the green light to get back underway here for this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So obviously we'll have 17 laps to the end after the safety car, but are we going to have any more safety cars? That could be a big decisive factor here, and if we do, it could potentially benefit our race leader Davidoff, because he's got a long way to go on those medium tyres, I tell you that. It's not going to be easy for him, unless of course he tries to use his outright pace on the mediums. Should have about half a second a lap in the bag on the mediums. Then again, that's not really going to give him enough of a gap to put the softs on and go all out. So I don't know what his plan's going to be. Is it going to be to try and nurse these to the end, or is he just going to go all out, try and pull a gap and then put a set of softs on and make up the places at the end of the race? Who knows what Davidoff's plan's going to be here, but I'm sure no matter what, he's got to be going for the win here in this one. We saw some comments coming in the qualifying saying he was 50-1 on. Wasn't sure if that was for qualifying or the race, but if it was for the race, then potentially there could be some recoveries being made here by the end of tonight. But nonetheless, here we go then, about to go racing once again here for the season finale here at the Purple Sector Formula 1 League, and Davidoff is going to get us underway once again. So here we go then, through the final corner, and green flag here at the Yas Marina circuit. So Davidoff here leads us away once again. There is Clem ahead of Drago, followed by Mark. Then you've got Justify there in P5 ahead of Matty Pitt. There's T, Rexy Boy and Stiffy running in P9 in this race at the moment. As we come through the first sector, cold tyres could be a factor. Drivers have got to be aware of that one as they come now down towards the hairpin here for the first time on this restart, and looking like they're all very much holding position at the moment. No one really challenging on the driver ahead at this stage. Drauga's the closest driver to the driver in front of him. That's Clem there, who he's trying to put under a bit of pressure here as they come down towards the chicane, but Clem pulling away there down the straight. Has got better straight line speed. You can see clearly as Justify there making a move on Mark into the chicane we go as Mark. They're keeping it around the outside. He missed the apex there by quite some way. Justify getting a good exit here out of the chicane. Should be able to make this move here coming down towards the end of the second straight. Justify around the outside. Is this job done? On board with Mark. It's going to be close here into this braking zone. Mark thinks better of coming back here at him there. Justify up into P4 with those slightly fresher tyres, and can now try and chase after the likes of Davidoff, Clen and Jalga. And those were the guys he was battling in the early stages for the lead, as Matty Pitt has followed Justify through there on Mark as well. So Matty Pitt now into 5th place. Has got a big chance here, obviously, at this stage in the race, because now that everyone's been bunched up, he's got this chance to try and stick with his leaders here and potentially take a win or a podium to crown off his championship winning season here. But Mark, T, Rexy Boy and Stiffy still there running in the background there as they come into turn 1 here on lap 14 of the race. But it's Davidoff out the front, and he's already asserting his authority on these drivers here. Over a second of a gap right now over Cled. With a big question that I have to contend with here is whether or not he plans on coming in for another pit stop before the end of the race here, because surely if he pushes his mediums too hard, then they're not going to get to the end of the race. And 17 laps is no mean feat when you're taking it easy, but when you're going all out, when you're pushing as hard as you can, it's very likely that those mediums are going to give up before the end, in which case he'd probably best off putting the softs on and steaming through the pack and trying to make up the positions. He could probably still win the race if he changes to the softs on about lap 22 or something like that. but we'll just have to see what he does. As Mark here looking to the inside, but he's been passed by T there, so T's up into P6, and now Rexy Boy is trying to join in on this as well, as he's looking pretty racy here on the back of Mark, looking to the outside as he come into this final section of the lap here at this Yas Marina circuit. He's looking for a way through if he possibly can. He might have to wait until the long straight though, where the DRS will be able to give him that extra impetus to try and make that move, as Stiffy waiting in the wings in the background there as well, as these three come through that final corner here to complete lap 14 of the race. But Drauga here looking very close on the back of Glenn as they battle it out over second place. Here they come down towards the hairpin once again, and Drauga's going to be in a prime position here to try and make this move with the DRS. If you can get a good exit here, then this could easily be a job done here, as Drauga here in that slipstream here with the DRS getting closer and closer and closer and closer. He's going to get there a little bit too late, and he's going to have to wait for the second straight here to try and make that move properly, as Rexy Boy is making the move here on Mark and has done that one up into 7th place as they come into the end of the first straight. But in the meantime, we've got to stick with this battle here between Clem and Drauga, as Drauga's closing and closing. Here we go to the outside there as Clem forces him the long way around. Has he got the overspeed to do it? Yes, he has. Drauga there into 2nd place, swoops around him there, and obviously these guys continue to lose a bit of time there to Davidoff, who's a second and a half up the road. Drauga's got that penalty as well, which is going to benefit Clem when we get to the end of the race. But what won't be helping him at all is the fact that he's got to drive with a penalty in between himself and the race leader. But still all to play for, with Davidoff's tyres potentially on a bit of an expiry date here. So a long way to go here, just over halfway through this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix here at Purple Sector Formula 1 League for the final round of the season. It's still Davidoff out the front by just over a second. Drauga's actually closed the gap to him in the last lap or so. It was 1.3 at the beginning of the previous lap. Now it's just over a second. Okay, if Drauga can get within that DRS range, that under a second, then we'll be seeing that real wing come wide open there for Drauga, but just outside that range, I think, for the time being. In the meantime, Clen is still well within a second of Drauga, and we'll be able to put him under a bit more pressure here. So Drauga closing in on Davidoff, but Clen doing the same. Davidoff maybe now just switching his attention to trying to get these tyres to the end potentially. I don't know. Maybe just trying not to take too much out of them at this point, conserving that rubber so that he can get to the checkered flag here. As Mark here making a move on Rexy Boy. Obviously we saw those two swapping positions a few moments ago, but Mark there returning the favour as they come to the end of the second straight. Stiffy there still waiting in the background as he goes very wide there to Stiffy. That wouldn't have been the line he was trying to take there, as Rexy Boy always running into the back of Mark there, but getting it stopped. And look at that. I think Mark's braking points are maybe catching Rexy Boy out here. I think Mark is a slow in, fast out kind of driver. Rexy Boy is quite an aggressive braker by the looks of things. And you can see there the Constantina is catching Rexy Boy out at times here. You should be able to wait for the DRS zone to try and make that move, you would think. But we've got to go back to the leaders here, because Davidoff, Drauga and Clen still battling here. These three separated by just over a second just over a second at the moment. Do apologise for the constant clearing of my throat. I've got a terrible cough which has been lingering for the last couple of weeks. I was very, very unwell a couple of weeks ago, and although I feel fine physically now, it's the cough. It's just the cough. It just won't basically. But anyway, here are the leaders coming down a second straight, and currently it's still Drauga who is trying to cling onto the coattails here of Davidoff, with Clem putting under significant pressure at the moment. Justify hasn't been able to keep with these guys over the course of this second stint since the safety car restart, but he's not far away. I've seen this quite a few times actually with Justify. I don't know if it's a tactic of his, but I've seen in the second stint a few times he tends to drop back away from trains of cars where there's battles going on, and I don't know whether this is a move to try and pick up places with penalties, or whether it's just to try and stay out of trouble or keep out of the dirty air. But I've noticed it on a number of occasions now. Justify doesn't like to sit on the back of trains in second stints of races. In the first stint he does it, no problem, but in the second stints after the pit stops, He doesn't tend to sit on the back. He tends to leave a bit of a berth between himself and the drivers. Oh no, as he gets a big twitch there. Does Justify coming through turn 2. Did really well to hold on to that. But maybe, don't know if he's listening to the stream here, but that was a close call there for Justify. In the meantime, Davidoff still leading as we come down the first straight here. DRS will be available for Drago and Klen as they now come into the braking zone here for the chicane. They're all holding position for the time being as Stiffy here has moved ahead of Mark, and so has Rexy Boy as well. And Stiffy now looking to try and thread the needle here down the inside into the chicane we go as Rexy Boy keeping it around the outside, but overshoots his braking a little bit there, and that's going to be job done there for Stiffy up into 7th place. Rexy Boy though is going to have the DRS now down towards the second big braking zone. He looks to the inside. It's going to be 3 wide here as Mark's going to try and go around the outside here as we come into the corner now. It's going to be very, very tight between them. Rexy Boy on the inside gets completely mugged there around the outside by the other two. Stiffy there managing to come out on top in that one and holds on to P7 there. Mark in 8th place now, and Rexy Boy losing out on both positions there down to P9. But these guys having a cracking little battle here for 7th place. They're not showing any signs of demoralisation despite the fact that they're a little way off for the leaders, but they're still battling for points here. Obviously 6 championship points on offer for 7th place, so still plenty at stake here. 7th gets 6 points and 9th gets 2 points, so in a way there is a lot to fight for in this position. It's a big difference. As we go back to the leaders here, Davidoff out the front trying to conserve these medium tyres. He needs to go 17 racing laps on them if he's going to get to the end of the race here without having to come in for another pit stop. So he needs to try and be easy on the throttle coming out of these slower corners. Needs to make sure that the wheel spin is absolutely to a minimum as Draga, they're getting closer into the chicane, but obviously Draga with that penalty that will give Davidoff a bit of a consolation here because he knows that Klen is currently stuck behind Draga. So what Davidoff is doing here, and I think this is intentional, and I think this is very, very smart actually from Davidoff, is he's making sure that they're all in a DRS train where Klen can't get ahead of Draga because Draga's got the DRS on Davidoff, but Davidoff's making sure he gets good enough exits out of these corners before the DRS zones to keep ahead of Draga, and as well as Draga being that buffer between himself and Klen. So this is very, very smart driving here from Davidoff, and I respect it. And I've just clocked on to what he's doing, but it's it's very very strategic here from him at the moment. With 10 laps left to go in this race, it could well pay off an absolute treat here as we come over the line here to start lap 20 of the race. Oh dear. We got an incident there coming out of the final corner. Stiffy puts it into the wall and somehow has emerged with a fully intact front wing. What is going on there? Yeah, Street Boy there giving Tezza a few words, a piece of his mind, shall we say? As we've got Draga here getting close to the back of Davidoff here, coming into the chicane, a little bit too far away. And still holding position for the time being. Davidoff, though, is running a big risk here because Draga is close enough that he could throw up the inside or catch him out if Davidoff does get a slightly compromised exit out of one of these corners before the DRS zones. Draga could easily be coming past, and then suddenly Davidoff's in the position that he's putting Draga in at the moment, or at least he's certainly not got control over the situation. So Davidoff needs to ensure that he keeps that upper hand here as Rexy Boy has moved ahead of Mark, but Mark's not giving up here as he's keeping it around the outside, goes a little bit wide though, and that's going to give Rexy Boy P7 again. But yeah, currently Davidoff has got that upper hand, but to maintain it, he needs to make sure that Draga hasn't really got a sniff at all going into these braking zones at the end of the DRS zones. But he's currently playing it really, really nicely at the moment. But for those of you just joining us, currently as things stand, well, certainly Matty Pitt, as long as he doesn't deliberately crash into someone, will be the champion here at the end of tonight. As we see Davidoff having to really defend now. Draga putting it around the outside. This is going to be tight here. Who's going to have DRS here down this long back straight? It's going to be Draga, so he's behind at the detection point. And here comes Klen now as well. Klen is taking the lead. Crucially for Klen, he hasn't got a penalty, which means that Davidoff has now lost the net race lead here, and is now at the back of the trio as well. So he's now stuck in the DRS train in the position that he was putting Klen in before. As we go on board now with Davidoff, They're all closing in. They're all concertinaing up together here as they come now down the second straight. Where is Drago going to go? He's going to go to the outside there as Davidoff looking to the inside here down the end of the straight. Klen there keeping on to the lead here just about, but look at that. Drago looking around the outside here of Klen. He's made that move beautifully there as Drago, as we're watching on board here with Davidoff. Drago there back up into the lead once again, which will give Davidoff a bit of a consolation, I'm sure, but he needs to get ahead of Klen here if he wants to win this race. Drago with that penalty obviously will drop behind these guys on the classification. One man who has absolutely sneaked into this fight though is Justify, running in 4th place. I was saying a few laps ago that it looked like he was potentially down and out, having lost a bit of time, and we saw that mistake coming through the first sector, that big twitch coming down towards the hairpin, but Justify's recovered it really nicely and is now very much in contention for this win. As we're coming towards the closing stages of this race, into the final quarter here of this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, lap 22 of 29 here, and Drago with a slender lead ahead of Klen with Davidoff and Justify. These 4 drivers here separated by about a second, so it's pretty tight here between them. And there's Matty Pitt running in P5, a couple of seconds ahead of T in P6. There's Rexy Boy 7 seconds behind Devon. The mark is getting around the outside of Rexy Boy out of the hairpin. Question is though, who's going to have DRS? It's going to be Mark, so he's played that one beautifully there. That'll take him away from Rexy Boy's threat there as they come towards the chicane. Back to the leaders here, Drago, Klen and Davidoff. You've got Drago there has got Klen looking up his inside. He's made that move there as Klen up into the lead of the race. Drago though trying to get the cut back. Oh, it's just tight there between them, and Drago had to get out of that there, otherwise their wheels would have made contact. They almost got locked together there, and that would have been both of them off of the track and potentially into the wall. We have got a double zero flag there because Stiffy has stacked it, but looking like we're going to continue without any further disruption to the race here. So we've got away with that one quite lightly as Davidoff here into the pits to put some soft tyres on. Now this is going to be crucial. How much time is he going to lose in the pit lane? And he's going to have to make up 7 places because the pack is quite close, having only had a safety car restart a couple of laps ago. So Davidoff is going to have to overtake 7 drivers on fresh soft tyres if he wants to win this race. Is it even feasible at this point? Davidoff off and away now at the end of the pit lane. So let's see what the gap is. See what the gap is to the leader. So Klen and Drago still continuing their battle. 7 laps left to go here at the Yas Marina circuit. 20 seconds. Davidoff is behind Klen. Obviously, the delta usually between the hard and the soft. Oh, he's on the medium. Oh, he's not going to win. No chance. No chance. Absolutely no chance. Yeah, it's going to be P5 at best, I think, for Davidoff here. P6 probably for him. But yeah, Klen currently a race leader ahead of Drago, and Drago's been passed around the outside there by Justify. So Justify is now well in this mix here as he makes a move where Hamilton got past Russell, as we see them almost come together there, and Drago had to just back out of it there to avoid a simply monumental incident between them. But Klen here leading us coming into the final sector here as we're in the closing laps here of this season here for the Purple Sector Formula 1 League. Season 11 here, cross-play across all platforms here, as we see Klen has got a slender advantage here coming into turn 1 here on lap 24. There's Matty Pitt running in the background there, our champion-elect here in 4th place. There's T. Big gap back to Mark here, who's in P6 currently. Rexy Boy on the back of him as well, with Davidoff there down in P8 after that unplanned, or rather a not ideal pit stop there. Obviously we've had to do 17 laps on his medium tyres. Shame he didn't have a set of softs ready for the final stint, because those would have come in a lot handier. But I still think P6 is there for Davidoff. I don't think that P4 is off the cards either, as Drago and Justify battling here for 2nd place. This might allow Klen to disappear off into the distance here. Justify there moving past Drago. They both got DRS there on Klen, but he's managing to make that move nonetheless there as Justify up into 2nd place. And these two continuing to chop and change left, right and centre at the moment, but I think Davidoff, he might be able to catch Matty Pitt, maybe. About 10 seconds, the gap's, well, 5 laps, 10 seconds the gap. He'd have to gain 2 seconds a lap. It's not impossible, but it would be a heck of a feat for him to do that. He can definitely get Mark, who's just in front of him now, and he is about to do that actually. So Davidoff might even make it into this next right-hander here. Heavy braking zone, looking to the inside. Mark gives him the space, bit of contact there between them, but Davidoff gets that one done without any major issues there, up into 6th place. So the gap now to T is 9 seconds. The gap to Matty is 11 seconds to Matty Pitt. Who knows? Davidoff is he's gonna give it everything here in the final few laps. Obviously, this win has got away from him. I'm sure he's going to be very upset about that, because the safety car really did thwart that potential for that race win, which was certainly looking on the cards in the first stint where he's on those hard tyres. But it looks like it, ultimately doesn't look like it was going to be for Davidoff in this one. But Justify nonetheless making the move on Glenn as they come to the end of the first straight, and that's job done there for Justify. Now hits the front again. Interestingly, Justify has got a penalty, so has Drauga, so that will obviously have an effect here. Drauga with 2 penalties has got 6 seconds worth. Justify with 3. Glenn with sans penalties at this point, so Glenn will by default get these 2 as long as they're all together on the track at the end of this race. What Justify needs is he needs to try and pull out 3 seconds. He needs to try and break that DRS now and then be 3 seconds ahead come the checkered flag. So that could be very, very challenging for him to do. I don't know whether it's going to be possible. I don't think it will be, because these guys are going to stick to each other like glue, and Glenn's going to be in that DRS every single time they get to that detection point. So I can't see that being a battle here for the win in terms of the classification. But certainly on the track, I don't think it's over yet as they come over the line here to start lap 26 of the race. 4 laps left to go here in season 11. So there are the 3 leaders coming through the first sector. There's Matty Pitt, the champion-elect there, running in 4th place. There's T there, not too far behind him in P5, keeping his distance away from the champion, not trying to put him under pressure here. Obviously, Matty just needs to keep it together for these final few laps of the race. Davidoff chasing after T. He's absolutely tearing after him right now. Only 3 seconds now between T and Davidoff, so Davidoff will definitely be looking at P5. I said before, P4 would be the absolute max here, but depends how quickly he can dispatch T as to whether or not he'll be able to chase after the champion for a potential P4 here at the end of this race. But it's Justify leading by just 0.2 of a second here. Glenn getting closer, but not close enough into that fast left-hander, and it doesn't look like Justify is able to break that DRS here, which is crucial for Glenn, because Glenn without a penalty will be able to take the win on the classification. So he's in a position where he just needs to hold where he is and not make any mistakes here. It's easier said than done when you're battling for the lead, but Glenn just needs to keep it clean here for the final 3 laps of this race. Closing moments here of this season. Less than a second. Oh, sorry, not less than a second. Oh, no, it is. Less than a second separating the top 3. Or briefly for a moment anyway. But oh so tight here. And shame about the penalties, because obviously this would be a wide open battle for the win if it wasn't for those. But Glenn will have DRS here on Justify. Can Glenn get the win on the track here? It'd be good to see the winning driver of the race being the winner on the track as well. Always a bit hollow for me when you see a driver get a win on penalties, but nonetheless, Justify having to defend there, going into the chicane a little bit, a very slight defensive move there just to put Glenn off with the idea. But he's going to have DRS now coming down the second straight, and we'll have another bite of the cherry here, and he's going to get him here into this next corner as he breezes past like he's not even there, and Glenn there back up into the lead once again. So Justify now not just P2 in terms of penalties, is also P2 on the track as well. And Glenn looking very good for his money at the moment. If you're a betting man, I have to say it would be heavy odds on at this point to convert what this is currently P1 and currently what is a majorly upper hand situation here for him as we come into the final couple of corners here. So it's going to be penultimate lap of the season here at Abu Dhabi with Glenn, Justify and Trauger. These 3 have had the race to themselves. They had they had Davidoff in the mix, sorry, in the early stages. Davidoff was definitely on a par with these guys in terms of pace, but unfortunately, due to the penalty situation, has lost out. Not the penalty, sorry, the pit stops. Oh no, Justify has crashed out on the penultimate lap of the race. Justify has binned it. Did he crash with these 2 or one of these 2 or what? I don't know what's happened there. Maybe just pushing a little bit too hard, knowing that he needed to get ahead of Glenn. to pull out that gap. So Justify out of the race, no safety car. So obviously it's too late in the race for safety cars. So it's just going to be a case of continuing here. But Klen still ahead of Drago at the moment. But yeah, Davidoff with the pit stops coming at the worst time because the safety car came out as his pit window was approaching, which meant he had to put the mediums on a few laps earlier than he would have liked, which then obviously forced his hand into coming into the pits a couple of laps to go. If it wasn't for that, then I think Davidoff could certainly have been in the fight for the win, and actually probably would have been a few seconds ahead of these guys. I would have calculated in my head he would have probably been a bit up the road from these guys if it wasn't for that. But nonetheless, it's a case of what could have been, and ultimately what could have been wasn't the case, and it's therefore ultimately irrelevant. But nonetheless, we got Klen here coming out of the final corner here, about to start the final lap of the race here at the Yas Marina circuit. One more tour of this relatively new circuit, obviously traditional season finale here in the Formula One World Championship, and one man who's going to add his name to a list of champions here at Purple Sector is Matty Pitt, who's coming through turn 2. He's going to take a podium as well, which is rather ceremonial when you think about it. Being on the podium on your championship drive is always an extra icing on the cake there. But we've got to keep to these two because they're going to battle it out on the final lap of the race here. These two who have been on it since the word go, and the likes of Justify and Davidoff have fallen by the wayside, but Klen and Drauger have stayed in there all the way through. Could be the case that Matty Pitt might be able to take second place here. If he can be within 6 seconds of Drauger, then it'll be Matty Pitt who will be P2 and Drauger P3 by the time he gets to the checkered flag. This could be pretty tight here between these guys as they come into the final half a lap here. Klen is your leader with Drauger in second place. Matty Pitt, though, the league host, the owner of Purple Sector, the owner of the Discord server, obviously former coordinator of Motive Racing Formula One League as well, has done a heck of a lot to help Motive Racing, not just Purple Sector, but kept the Formula One League going way past when it should have been pretty much dead in the water. And he's about to take a championship here at Purple Sector. First time I've ever commentated on winning a championship. I'm not sure if he's won it before, but Klen takes the win with Drauger second. It's going to be Matty Pitt, though, out of the final corner here at Abu Dhabi, who's going to take the Purple Sector Formula One League for season 11. Congratulations to him. It's Davidoff over to take fourth place here in the end, right behind him, having been thwarted due to the strategy with the ill-timed safety car there. It's going to be T over to take P5 with just a bit of an anonymous drive from him tonight. But nonetheless, I'm sure we'll see him back out on track here on Tuesday night for the season opener for season 12. It'll be Rexy Boy through the final corner to take P6 in the other McLaren, just ahead of Mark, who will take 7th. And that is all she wrote here for tonight. And that is it for season 11. But massive congratulations to Matty Pitt on taking season 11 here for Purple Sector. Fantastic season from him, very consistent. And shame Trevor couldn't be here to ultimately see the season out. But I think the situation would have been, if Trevor was here, even if Trevor had won, Matty Pitt would have been P4. So it would have still been Matty's championship because obviously Trevor wouldn't have got the fastest lap. And I'm sure that somebody would have jumped in the pits and stolen that. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have changed anything. But nonetheless, that is that then for tonight's action here on the Motive Racing channel for the Purple Sector Formula One League. And Matty Pitt is your season 11 champion here for the Purple Sector Formula One League. Klen taking the win tonight. Really good drive there with Drug Pitt, your champion, completing the podium. So that is that then, everybody, for this season. Obviously, we only commentated on 4 races, but it's been really good, the action that I've seen so far, and we'll have more drivers on track for next week. We've got lots of drivers waiting in the wings to join this championship, itching at the bit and ready to go. So that'll be exciting to see. Join us on Tuesday night when things get underway once again. And yeah, we'll see you all later on. Thank you, and good night.